But press record. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Rob, and I'm on Twitch. But I signed up for um, a program through the facilities of Trent Radio, Environmental Soup, and if I get approved, I plan to broadcast through the facilities of Trent Radio as well as Twitch. So today I will talk about climate in the courtroom. There was a revelation in a court case called Mathel et al., which is a court case involving 7 youth who are taking legal action against the government of Ontario because the government of Ontario failed to take climate action seriously. And then a quote from the case. There was a court case previously because of an application to deny the court case. And they met this past week. I think it was the 12th to the 14th they met. The court case happened. And one of the lawyers for the government of Ontario said that the climate change plan is nothing but a glossy brochure. And this demonstrates that they plan on not doing anything regarding climate change. There was an article in the National Observer called The Truth, the Whole Truth. It's nothing but a glossy brochure. And it's just talking about what the lawyer said. And it's not a law that authorizes, permits, prohibits, or requires anything from this article. And then it's talking about U.S. legislation as well. And then consultants are saying that targeting carbon pricing and saying like there should be more technology and not taxes. This isn't the carbon price isn't really a tax. So there was that issue. It's a what did they call it? A regulatory charge. The Supreme Court referred to it as, and you end up getting the money back as well. And then there's a quote in this article: "Even if you're climate denial, you should be on board." One of the researchers told the BBC. The study found a switch from fossil fuels to renewables is not only feasible, but would save the world at least 12 trillion by 2050. Um, um, I guess so, it looks like there's a few articles on this. Um, and so I'll go. Oh, and it's eco justice. I'll go to my screen. It's eco justice that is helping launch the court case. And then from the court case, climate change is an existential threat to all people living in all nations. Um, and I was at like what's it called? Community picnic and open mic, and one of the speakers talked about what one of the poets, uh, Sarah Lewis, talked about Pakistan and climate change in a poem. Um, there was massive flooding. We know about the major power outage that happened in May of this year. Several homes and businesses were without power for weeks. Um, the 2004 flood, um, devastating the downtown. Um, and then as we're global, we consume food globally. A shortage of food in one country will affect several other countries. And then in the court case, climate change leading to more frequent wildfires, heat waves, flood, increased infectious diseases. And then there was viable solutions, but lack of political will. Paragraph 19 says that Ontario has at the very least, a shared constitutional responsibility with Canada for controlling greenhouse gas emissions within the province. And then a decision was to dismiss the case was denied, and I'll pull up that. I don't see anyone in the chat, but I can. Um, so the province of Ontario decided to wanted to limit the case from going forward. They wanted to dismiss the case. Um, and the the applicant. So one of the reasons for the decision, um, the applicants seek declaratory and mandatory orders relating to Ontario's target and plan for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in the province by the year 2030. The applicants submit that Ontario's target is insufficiently ambitious and that Ontario failure to set a more stringent target on a more exacting plan for combating climate change over the coming decade infringes on the constitutional rights of youth and future generations. The issue to be determined by this court whether, pursuant to Rule 21, the notice of application should be struck. Oh. It must be determined whether it is plain and obvious, assuming the facts pleaded to be true, and the pleading discloses no reasonable cause of action. Um, okay, and yeah, so this is the reason why I went ahead. Um, the Court of Appeal for Ontario. Oh, I should go. Um, yeah, the Court of Appeal for Ontario has noted that there was no dispute that global climate change is taking place and that human activities are the primary cause. And yeah, there was a court case related to the carbon price, which I'll talk about later on. Um, um, the paragraph 6 of the decision, excess level of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere is problematic because it leads to global warming since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and in particular 1950s. Um, Greenhouse gases have been rising at an alarming rate. And then there's several like scientific reports saying that we have until 2030 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And in a different episode, possibly the same one. Yeah, but I guess a different episode. The radio program that I signed up for was um, a 30-minute time slot. Um, but I plan on talking on Twitch for longer than 30 minutes. Um, I might go into like Peterborough's greenhouse gas report. Um, yeah, so those increased frequency and severe extreme weather events, um, which we've personally experienced. Um, there was a major wildfire and oh, um, yeah, so they gave examples: Ebola in 2016, wildfires, British Columbia 2017, 2018, major flood events in Ontario and Quebec in 2017, 2018. Um, the major flooding in Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick in 2019 was likely also fueled by climate change. Um, and then there's a carbon pricing reference. So that's in reference to the Supreme Court of Canada. Um, so I can go down. So it's talking about like Canada not meeting its Paris Kyoto Protocol called. Um, was a working group on carbon pricing mechanisms, which stated that carbon pricing is the most efficient way to reduce emissions, and that carbon pricing would be a fundamental element of Canada's response to climate change. That's where that came in. So it's talking about stuff that happened under the previous government as well. And then on June 28th, the Court of Appeal for Canada said that carbon pricing is constitutional. The decision was appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada. And at the time, the decision was pending, but the decision has been made. And then cap and trade was revoked. And then Section 3.1 of the Cancellation Act says the government shall establish targets for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario and may revise the targets from time to time. So this becomes problematic when the government says that its climate change brochure is glossy paper. Because the Act, according to this, says that the government shall establish targets for reduction of greenhouse gases. Where are all those targets? And then the minister, with approval of the Lieutenant Governor and Council, shall is a word you have to do it. Prepare a climate change plan and may revise the plan from time to time. And that's the Made in Ontario environment plan. And then they cited the plan in the Court of Appeal for Ontario, but they also said that it wasn't in regards to carbon pricing, but they also said in this recent court case, a lawyer said that it's not actually enforceable. And then I'm just going to check the chat. Oh, my computer mouse is. Yeah. I see that there's someone watching, so welcome. And then the 12 and 24, all the applicants. And the government lost the case when it canceled the cap and trade system because they didn't consult with the public. But there wasn't really any punishment. So this isn't the first case that they lost. They lost the decision. They lost this case. uh, the motion to strike the case, but the case is still going on. I'm just waiting for a decision. Um, so uh, there's Rule 21. I don't know where Rule 21 comes. Um, oh, Reporters. Oh, there was a federal court decision of La Rose versus Canada from 2020, and they launched a claim under uh, Section 7 and 15 to challenge the governments of Canada alleged conduct that the plaintiffs associated with greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. And they said that increased emissions contribute to climate change. The federal court granted Canada's motion to strike the plaintiff's statement and claim without leave to amend. Um, the court found that the total claims were not justifiable, and disclosed no reasonable cause of action. The court also found that the public trust doctrine on which plaintiffs relied was just justicable but did not disclose a reasonable cause of action. The doctrine is not at issue in the Rule 21 motion before this court. So they didn't consider this. So that's unfortunate that there was a case that was dismissed. And LaRose does not bind this court that the matter was distinguishable from the motion before this court. Um, and then yeah, so they can't rely on novelty um, as a reason to dismiss the court case. Um, yeah, I'm just going to scroll down. So there's a title, All the Target and Plan Reviewable by Courts. Um, um, okay, so Ontario submitted that if the target and plan are not law, then the court should not be making legal determinations about them. It does not submit that the charter does not apply to the target and plan. So paragraph 46 said section 3.1 the government shall establish targets for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario and may revise the targets from time to time. So this is the same argument that I pointed out as to why the government is law, the greenhouse gas targets of law. And section 4.1 the same. And then with hard work, innovation, and commitment, we will ensure Ontario achieves emissions reductions in line with Canada's 2030 greenhouse gas targets under the Paris Agreement. Page 18, the following chapter of Environmental Plan Access Ontario Climate Change Plan, which fulfills all commitment under the Cap and Trade Cancellation Act. Page 18 has... Oh, so this is talking about the plan. So page 3, page 18. Page 21, Ontario reduces emissions by 30% below 25 levels by 2030. This is Ontario's proposed target for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, which fulfills all commitment. And page 22, the policies within this plan will put us on path to meet our 2030 target. So those same policies. So I will, because there's not a lot of time, I will look at the next article. Which is called Ontario's Climate Plan is more of a glossy brochure than a law, so says the government itself. And I should also note that there has been court cases that have been successful. I can make that. So let's see. So this is a Toronto Star article by Marco Ovid on September 14th. Oh, I might have to go to... I'm just going to make it so I can read the article. Oh, I can't read the article. Maybe I can... Oh, yeah. So it says Ontario has no power to... Oh, yeah, so it's not letting me read the article. But yeah, that was the main point of the article. So those climate activists have been successful in the court. They forced the Dutch government to reduce emissions. So it can happen here. And those similar court actions. And they're required to cut emissions by 25% by the end of 2020 from benchmark 1990 levels. And this is from a CBC article. And they lost the appeal in 2019 and appealed again to the Supreme Court. The second appeal was rejected. They must act on the risk of dangerous climate change. So this is the first half of the environmental soup program. So I will pause here um, because I ran out of time to discuss this, but um, climate activists have been successful, is what I'm trying to say. And I will pick up the Twitch stream. Um, so, hello. If you're just joining in, you're listening to a Twitch stream. This is part 2. Um, I don't know if this will be broadcast through the facilities of Trent Radio, um, but I'm recording it just in case. And this is environmental soup. Um, yeah. So climate activists have um, won in courts previously, and it's climate change has a serious impact on indigenous rights, um, hunting, gathering, cultural aspects. I hold blueberries at a rally in Toronto. I hold blueberries will threaten due to climate change. Moose. Um, yeah. In the last episode, I talked about a case in um, I think Denmark. Um, uh, Teenagers are winning climate fights. Oh yeah, what is this? Oh, I'm still on. Oh, I'm still on the old one. Um, copy, copy. Oh, I don't know why it keeps this. Oh, cut. Um, and this is by Laura Lum. Oh, pop up. By Laura Lumrana. Um, so it sounds like there was a court case in Germany. Um, and a 2019 climate law was incompatible with fundamental rights, a victory for 9 young German activists that filed the lawsuit and for global youth climate movement. Um, so there's Denmark and Germany. Um, and then a week after the court case, it said that it would speed up its transition to net zero by 2045 and cut emissions by 65 by 2030. Um, And then there was a court case uh, graphic. Oh, I don't know. Oh, am I paused? I think I'm paused here. Oh, there I am. I see myself. Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, on the radio you won't be able to see this, but there's a lot of North American countries covered in green, South American countries, Europe, India, Australia, South Africa, Japan, um, and then lot of cases from the U.S. Um, there was 1,727 cases recorded between 1987 and 2020, but over 50% started after 2015. Um, um, yeah, these are against countries that signed the Paris Accord and the other climate change accords. Um, and they've had success at governments. Um, yeah, and they're talking more about human rights being impacted. Um, and we can tell what the government is doing um, on climate change by looking at reports that have been released. Um, yeah. Um, let's see. Yeah, so I can talk about the Supreme Court of Canada's decision on the gas prices, the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. There was a brief, like a short summary provided by the Supreme Court. So one of the heading was why it's constitutional. Uh, Global warming is homes beyond provincial borders and is a national concern under peace, order, and good government. And it only applies in provinces whose pricing is not strict enough to reduce greenhouse gases. Um, and then the government has the authority to act where there is a national concern. It's valid. And then all the parties agreed that climate change is, in fact, real. So there's no dispute about climate change not being real. Um, and then um, there was an argument that it didn't apply to Ontario, uh, but it does because of Section 2 of the Act says it's binding on provinces, and Ontario is listed in Schedule 1 of the Act and is considered a listed province. Section 9, and this is the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. Section 19.1, every person that brings at a particular time fuel into the province from a place in Canada must pay to Home Majesty in the right of Canada a charge in respect other fuel in the provinces in an employment in Section 40. So it is clear that from all this, it's clear that Ontario has responsibilities to climate change. In part one, I talked about um, the law itself, and and there's also a case that that there is responsibility for climate change, even even if it's like less than 1%. There's still a a responsibility of reducing climate change within the province. And if everybody made the argument that climate change um, isn't, um, what do you say? Yeah, if everybody made the argument that because so and so isn't doing that, taking action, I don't have to take action, then no one is going to take action on climate change, and that's part of the problem. Um, and then all these small players on climate, they add up, and we're losing entire nations to climate change, and then those even conflicts, global conflicts that have started as a result of climate change or climate change contributed to conflicts. A lot of people talk about Syria, um, anything related to food insecurity. Um, yeah, so it's an ongoing thing. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, so I'll look at equal justice. Um, so they're all to yeah, the government has infringed on the use right to life, security, and equality under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And it's the first lawsuit based on rights protected under the Charter to be held on the merits in Canadian court. Um, and then it would set a precedent under the Constitution that no government in Canada can take action that contributes to the climate crisis without potentially violating charter rights. And then there's some quotes. Danielle Garland, an equal justice lawyer, said, this case is historic because it's the first climate lawsuit based on charter protected rights to reach a full hearing in any Canadian court. Throughout the world, legal challenges of government action have become a powerful tool for young people to demand change. Um, and then another quote by Sophia Matto. The climate crisis is going to impact everyone both now and into the future. It is important for me to be part of the case because we need to stand up for generations to come and make sure that they have a safe and livable planet. And then Shailin Rabajig, as end quote. As an indigenous person, not only do I have the right to address the impact of climate change in quote, I have a responsibility to protect the sacred land, water, and air that nourishes us and should nourish future generations. And then Shelby Gagnon, I'm concerned about the impact that climate change will have on people and the land that we depend on for survival. As an Indigenous person from Northern Ontario, I'm already witnessing the impact of climate change on my community. Yeah, so there's definitely an impact. Oh, I see a notification. Oh, that's not from my chat. Oh, it's just okay, it's all good. Um, yeah. So there's some quotes, and then there's the backgrounds. The court case was launched in 2019 um, because the government replaced tollgate with vehicle tollgates. 2020, they filed a motion to strike the case. They won in November 12th, 2020, and that was the case that I read before. Um, and then they tried again in 2021, but the Ontario Divisional Court dismissed the request. Um, let's see. And then there's different court cases. I'm just looking for this particular one. So it's oh, here it is. I'm wondering if it says any more. Oh, here there's a better overview of the case. Um, um, and it's they use the hashtag Gen Climate Action, and you can read more by reading MATHURETAL V Whole Majesty in the Right of Ontario, and looking up equal justice. Um, and then I have a nice timeline. I might, and then they have link to each of the clients, some of the staff. There's a way to get involved. You can donate, take action. I'm just going to click the link. Keep informed. And you can share this page. And then there's additional resources. We can read a case background, an overview of the notice of application, the final decision, equal justice factum, and apply factum. And this timeline is the same. Yeah, so if you're on Twitter, you can look that up. Or social media and climate action. Oh, I'm just going to go to Google. Oh, another page. I'm just going to check to see if there's any one in the chat room. There's no one in the chat room right now. But I also didn't advertise it, so I'm just going to look at the environmental consultations, environmental registry, and then I have a couple of minutes. I usually look for policies, regulations, and acts first. So it's still loading. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so there's three items. Emissions Performance Standards Program for Regulatory Amendments for the 2023-2030 period with the number 01956769. And you can comment on that until October 10th, 2022. A proposal to amend OWIG 509/18 under the Electricity Act 1998. That has number 0195855. And you can comment on that until September 24th, 2022, which will probably be after this podcast, before this podcast. And then proposed implementation of an ultra-low overnight electricity price plan for regulatory price plan consumers, and that has the number 0195849, and you can comment on that until September 24th, 2022. Let's see what's happening in news. Ontario newsroom. I'll look at the Ontario newsroom, which is from the government of Ontario. So I want something from environment, conservation, and courts. So this talks about different fines. Uh, Mandarin type indirectly fined 42,000 for Environmental Protection Act violations. Um, I want a news release. So yeah, this one is saying Ontario is making historical investments in wetland restoration. Um, so this one has to be taken with a grain of salt. Because they're also destroying wetlands at a record pace. And that was pointed out in the report Back to Basics by the former environmental commissioner. Um, the overuse of um, uh, zoning orders, municipal zoning orders. So they're saying that they're investing 6.7 million into the restoration and enhancement of 150 wetland projects um, and 750 hectares of wetlands. Um, and then it's specifically around the Great Lakes. And it's saying that it's um, one of the most amount of funding. Um, yeah, but they also got rid of the requirement to not to the net zero loss requirement that the previous government proposed. So that was problematic. Um, yeah, so let's see what. Oh, let's look at the climate change. And then in the news, climate change, Ontario. So it brings us back to the court case. Um, so CBC article is largely talking about the same things. I'm seeing if there's anything different. Um, Yeah. So yeah. Well, thank you for listening. If you're tuning in through the facilities of Trent Radio, um, it is appreciated. And enjoy your day, and see you next week. Um, and I will be still here. Um, yeah, I'll still be here. Uh, but I will be taking a break. That should have worked. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just be taking a break for a few minutes. So yeah, thank you for waiting. Um, I'm going to train. There's one person watching the stream, so I might change up topics. Um, I'll call it. what should I call it? Racist comedy not welcome. Racism. So there's a. I just have to pull it up. Jeff. So number one, I don't like. Oh, it might be pulling. It's pulling up, but I don't like the title of this article. So I'm just going to see if it. Hopefully it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this title because people have legitimate concerns. But it's from the Peterborough exam. There is a paywall on this, so I'm going to see if I can remove the paywall. Control foot. Yeah, so I removed the paywall. And yeah, so it's saying the puppets of American ventriloquist and comedian Jeff Dunham are coming to the Peterborough Memorial Center in November. And then the local Race Relations Committee chair would like to see the show canceled. The puppets include Jose Jalapeno, a Mexican immigrant, Ahmed the terrorist, so stereotyped uh, um, characters. And they'll feature in promotional material for the tour seriously. I want to see if I can find it. Serious. Um, okay, so those tickets. I can find the promotional material. Um, so November 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Um, and then they mention um, Jose Jalapeno and Ahmed the terrorist. And these are based on racist stereotypes, characters. Um, so yeah, it is. It's definitely problematic. Um, Saint Catherine's Vice Committee also said that it's problematic. Ahmed sounds like a name that could come from someone that could come from the Middle East. And then there was a lot of stereotypes around that. Um, and then this individual appears to be um, from the appearance appears to be a white individual. Um, and then Peterborough signed on to the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. So what is it doing, allowing a racist comedian to attend city facilities? I don't understand this. Um, it has a duty to make sure that things are inclusive. Oh, and oh, yes. Um, um, and then um, I just have to go down. So the show ought to be called off. Um, and then one of the city's communications managers said that the municipality only requires performers respect applicable laws. There's no scrutinizing a show's material to judge appropriateness. Um, I would argue that there is a commitment because it's the city of Peterborough signed on to the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. It's not following the coalition. Councils, Mayor Dan Tyrion, Kimmy Capo, and Councilors Kim Zippel all denounced Dunham. Unfunny because he punches down. Um, Kim Zippel said that the city should stand up to racism by not hosting these types of shows in a municipal arena. And this individual is a racist. Um, you don't have characters characters of a different um, puppets that are not your race. You do not understand the comedy, the appropriate comedy, the cultural. You're making stereotypes. City of St. Catharines voted against the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. Why have an advisory committee if you're not going to listen to them? It's ridiculous. So St. Catharines, I don't like the government of St. Catharines. They did vote to develop new guiding principles for future performance in municipal venues, so that's good. Um, Jeremy Giles, the manager for Memorial Center, told the Examiner in an email that he'd received no complaints about Dunham being offensive. He also said Dunham's last show at the PMC in 2019 broke attendance records. When asked by The Guardian in 2018 if he ever was he's being upset. Okay, yeah. The coordinator of Community Race Relations Committee said that, who spoke personally, said that comedy can be harmful, and whenever a comedian uses racist stereotypes to punch down at marginalized races and at ethnic groups that have no lived knowledge or connections to, then they make them a textbook racist, and they are actively perpetrating narratives of violence against those communities. And racialized people should not be the butt of white people's jokes. And I am white myself, and I agree. We need to take a stand and fight this unjust comedy. And at a time when local festivals are being canceled, it's even more important to stand up. So, yeah. Thank you for listening. And I will be back. I aim to be recording more frequently again. I know I'm going to be doing Sundays, and I will figure out my routine. But every Sundays I will be recording here. And hopefully we can take action on this.